Hi, everyone. My name is Taylor Blunt, and welcome back to the College Common Ground podcast. I'm so excited you are here. I'm surrounded by two great guests today. I'll let them introduce themselves.
Hi, my name is Faye Murray. I am a junior at Longwood. I'm a communications major. My concentration's in public relations, and I minor in sociology. And I'm from Orlando, Florida.
Nice. My name is Faith Julius. I'm a last semester senior on the long stretch out. I'm so excited. But I'm also a Comm PR major with a business administrative minor.
Awesome. And then can you guys share what you would affiliate yourselves as, as a voter and why?
I would associate myself as more a liberal voter. As so far why, just I guess life experience, and I guess I wouldn't self-define myself as a liberal, but based off of like historical my voting choices, then yes, liberal.
Yeah, I would have to agree, but oppositely, I am more known as Republican voting wise. I feel like that just comes from the way I grew up, growing up in the church, being a pastor's grandbaby, and then just my more Republican values that I've been instilled with growing up, and then forming those as my own as I moved into adulthood.
All right. So, from the liberal perspective, what does free speech mean to you in like the modern democracy, and what does that look like?
That's a great question.
I believe that free speech, or what it means within the context of when we're like speaking politically and things like that, it means that you're allowed to share your political beliefs and like your opinions on things that happen like within the government, and things like that. However, I think it doesn't absolve you from the social implications or responsibilities that happen. It just means that you can't be like persecuted or like fired or face like, I guess, serious consequence from the government or like a governing body based on your beliefs and your opinions. And you should be able to share those.
I completely agree with actually everything you said. I think that you should be allowed to say what you want to say to a certain extent, obviously. Like, it should not be hate speech, shouldn't be demeaning of people or groups of people. But I do believe that people should be able to express their opinions the way that they want. And I don't think that the government should be able to control just because they don't like what they're hearing.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think that they could be like, oh no, like now you're fired, or oh no, now you're silenced. And I think that goes both ways. I think everyone is entitled to have their own opinions and their own beliefs and could share those as long as they're not hate forming.
I would say though that there are, like you said, limitations within, free speech, but it's been said multiple times before that hate speech is free speech.
Mm-hmm.
Technically, I mean, I don't like agree with that.
No, yeah.
But I don't think that there's a way, or I know a way how to, I guess, dictate what is free speech versus hate speech,
Mm-hmm.
because the definition gets murky when we like talk about things of inciting violence and things like that. So hate speech technically is protected under what we as Americans define free speech. So it's unfortunate, but it's true.
No, I completely agree. And I think that, like, someone on TikTok who has a platform on TikTok is very different from someone who is, like, running for candidacy or for someone's running for school board or something like that, or they're just in a more public space. I think that's where that line of hate speech kind of gets a little bit even blurrier with free speech, because it's like you have more presence for that to be seen, if that makes sense.
That does make sense. And I would like to retract something I said before, because you shouldn't be fired from a federal job if you're like, speaking about your disagreements about what's something that's happening like within your government and things like that. But being fired from your job for saying something that doesn't align with their values, I think that's well within like their own mission, values, and statements.
Oh, yeah.
So like if I work at McDonald's and I'm like, Chick-fil-A has the best food and you guys should not spend your money at McDonald's, and I get fired from McDonald's, like I shouldn't be like, what?
Yeah,
like,
absolutely.
those things like make sense. So when I say you can still face like the social consequences, that's more so what I mean. I want to be clear about that.
No, yeah, same. I think that social consequences, especially in the day and age that we're in right now, is insane. People get canceled for the craziest things. Like, you could literally say the sky is purple and get canceled. But then there's also times where people say the most out-of-pocket crap ever, and they should get canceled, and then they're not. So I definitely agree with you on that. But I do think that, like, your point with, like, private industry, like, if you're working at one company and you say something bad about another company, like your example with McDonald's, I feel like that's totally, like, that company is at will to be able to do that.
Yeah.
Especially depending on what state you're in. You don't always have to have like, it can be an at-will state. You don't have to have reasons like in Virginia.
A follow-up question to that kind of topic we were talking about. There was a school board member that was local to here.
Yeah.
I don't know if you've seen that news. So Heffron accepts the resignation, but this was the specific quote. And the post read, quote, "Call me old-fashioned, but I remember when we used to be okay with shooting Nazis," end quote.
Mhm.
And that is what the statement was. So I just wanted to get you guys', since we're talking about hate speech, free speech, especially being in the position of a school board, you mentioned that. What are your thoughts on the resignation, the backlash?
So, like, my first thought when I heard that was, like, she's talking about Charlie Kirk. Like, that was, like, kind of my first thought. But I think because she is a person who is within a school board, like, you have to be careful about those things. Yeah, that's my full take. Like, things that you say can get you fired, regardless of, like, that's your personal belief. I mean, I find it difficult to argue or debate somebody's personal beliefs, but the facts of the situation is, like, her being fired for making that comment and tweeting that out, that could have been a conversation with your friend. You didn't have to tweet that, and you did jeopardize yourself for that. But I do think it's definitely interesting that people, we expect, like, our idols or, like, celebrities or, like, people to share their beliefs and their morals and things like that, to decide whether or not we are going to support them and things like that. But if it doesn't align with our personal beliefs, then we, like, cancel them. So I do think, like, that's interesting. But she's not, like, a celebrity. She's a public servant being paid by the federal government. So, yeah.
I think I agree with you completely. And I think that if it would have been not that quote, if she would have went along the lines of, it's totally fine to not agree with what he says, like, that's totally fine. I hear people out all the time that I don't agree with. But I think that the way in which she went about it and the way in which that she posted about it, like you said, like, that could have been a private conversation between you and your friend. Like, you really had to post that. But I also think that it's totally appropriate if she was to go online and say, hey, I don't agree with this person, but it's like, that was a life that was lost.
Right.
That's different. But saying what she did, that, and to your point, could have just been a private conversation. That's totally fine to have that opinion. If that's your opinion, okay, cool. But have that privately, especially because of the position that you're in. That personal branding really matters at the end of the day.
I could not agree more. Also, I think I accidentally, like, touch your foot. Sorry.
Oh, no.
I thought there was, like, something under here.
No,
but,
yeah, you touched whatever's under there. I didn't feel anything.
Yeah, it's like
but
boards or something.
I think that people who have a platform have to consider those things. Like, regardless of what that platform is, I feel like we're in an age and time where, like, we call for transparency as voters. We call it for, like, as fans of people's and things like that, which is good, but there's a way to be transparent and not blow up your career. Like, I wish there was less transparency almost. I feel like I know too much about people now. So I definitely do agree with those points. And I think that she could have phrased her opinion on the matter differently, because it's like, you're talking about shooting, you work for a school board, like, that doesn't look good, you know?
Yeah. You have to think about your audience. You have a bunch of parents who have kids that are just as well the age of his, that you're now saying this about their kids. How do you think that, and that's an elected position. Like, what do you think that your voters,
Is it constituents? Might not be the right word. but-
Constituents.
yeah, like your people are going to think after you say that. I think it just comes down to a professionalism and personal branding and understanding that, like, I mean, we're told from so young, the internet never goes away.
Yeah.
It comes back to haunt you. So I think just a little bit better thinking about what she would have said. And I think if it was worded differently, it'd be a completely different story.
Should the government ever limit free speech or speech in general?
In what capacity?
We're on Longwoods College campus as an example, and the government is, like, we're having a campus debate, for instance, and the government, even if it's local government, right, is like, okay, we can't have this political speaker come and speak, or we can't have this student group. What, I guess, do you think, are there problems with the government stepping in and limiting those kind of open forum conversations, or if a professor got involved in it, or if President Reevely got involved with it, or I guess where is the line do you think that the government should step in with free speech in general on a college campus?
Okay.
And as like Charlie Kirk also went to college campuses, what do you think? Should the government have stepped in there? What, do you think it's up to the college board, I guess, for that? Because that's also appointed by the governor. So it's, that comes in with that. Should that have any say in it? And so what's your opinion on that?
I think the biggest concerns are just safety. If we are going to have, because I think these conversations are important to have, and I think they need to be facilitated properly. When we're having big, large, open events where like people who don't even like go to the school, even though I'm saying like not saying that they shouldn't be in the room or whatever, but we have to make sure that we have safety precautions in place. I think being gunned down for your words, I think that's a crazy thing. But I think it needs to be a safer thing. And I think if they were ever to step in and say like, hey, like this is something that can't happen, it would have to be under the guise of like, this is a safety precaution for students. If like maybe if like the student body was like, hey, like we really don't want this to happen because we feel unsafe about it, I think it's worth listening because like you kind of brought up, Reevely would be representing everybody by like him allowing or not allowing for somebody to come here if he decided to step in, or like the school board or the board of visitors or whatever. It's like you have to think about the people you serve. But when I say that at the same time, them saying, oh, this is a safety precaution, being very clear about why this is a safety issue. And if this is something that could be like, aided with more security being present, or maybe like having metal detector checks like through the door or whatever, then saying like, hey, we want this to happen, but these things need to be put in place before it happens.
I 100% agree. Like that's almost verbatim what I was going to say. I think that the time that we're in right now, it is terrifying to talk about what you believe. I think that goes for either side. Honestly, like I have people that are very left leaning and I have people that are very right leaning. And I feel like all of us are just genuinely so scared because of how everything is pulled apart. And especially going to Longwood, I feel like we're taught about this way more than other universities, at least talking to people at other universities, that like it's okay to not agree and you can still chat about things. And I think that the only time that anything would be able to be stepped into and would be appropriately stepped into and stopped, or like you said, looked at more closely, is if there was a safety issue for the students, for the faculty, for the speaker, for anyone in the situation. I think that is the only time that it would be appropriate for anyone to step in, is if there was a safety issue.
Like regardless of what side, or like if you have D or R by, or like non-party, it's like we're still all United States of America citizens.
Mm-hmm.
I think that is something that is really lost. Like the divisiveness and polarization within this country, I think is the biggest driving factor between like the violence and the kind of really scary things that are happening. I think people are forgetting that like just because I disagree with your values, or like your values as far as how far like the government should be ran, or like politically and things like that, it's like at the end of the day, you're still my neighbor.
Yeah.
And I'm going to look out for my neighbor, make sure my neighbor's safe. I'm not going to harm my neighbor because I disagree with them, how they think the economy should be running, So I just wanted to highlight that point because I think it's a really good one.
We're talking about the public servant thing. If you're in the spotlight, should Jimmy Kimmel have said what he said? I guess we can even talk about that.
Well, I feel like, because like, historically the beliefs of Republicans and Democrats have always like flip-flopped. Like if we go back in history, we know that. But it makes me wonder, is it really like, this is what I believe, and like regardless of who it's benefiting, this is what I believe? Or are we now changing our stance on it because it no longer suits me, or I'm no longer enjoying it? It's like if I'm like, girls always go first before boys, but then it's like a girl I dislike who's going first, I'm like, oh no, Jimmy should go first now. It's like, am I actually standing on that belief even if it's not serving me like selfishly? And I think that's the part that kind of disturbs me the most about radical thinking.
I completely agree with you. And I think that is what makes me so different from some other people that I know that are on the right, is like, there are many things that the right does that I'm just like, bro, what is going through your head right now? But then there's many things on the left that I'm like, what is going through your head right now? And there's things that I agree with on both sides. And I think that that is what puts me in that like teeter-totter spot.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's also why, like, when I go to vote, I do so much research.
Mhm.
And I'm like, okay, I'm actually voting for what policies people are saying that they're going to enact and what people say that they're going to do, which we have seen through history that does not
Right.
always happen.
Yeah.
But we can hope that it does because that's what our vote is going towards. But getting back to the Jimmy Kimmel thing, I never saw the direct quote from what he said.
I'm gonna pull it up too, just so when viewers watch this, they know the exact
Yeah,
thing too.
but like I think that you should be allowed to say what you want to say without retribution of being fired and getting your show taken away.
This is from BBC.com. So it says in his monologue on Monday, this is directly after, he said that the MAGA gang, quote, was, quote, desperately trying to characterize this kid who murdered Charlie Kirk as anything other than one of them, end quote, and of trying to, quote, score political points from it, end quote. So he pretty much was saying that MAGA was using this death as a political like toy, I guess, in order to make liberals look worse. And I think there was more that he said in there about Trump and just his interactions with Charlie. And then his show did get reinstated. He came out, but he did say a lot of things after that against Trump on his next show. I know that, but I think he did apologize in the end for disrespecting Charlie Kirk's death in any way. But I guess if that's the direct quote right there of what he said, what do you think of that?
I think for me personally, again, you could have worded it better. Like, I get it, and I definitely think that he is right that a lot of like super, super far right people were like immediately just going and being like, this was some liberal person, blah, 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 blah. It's like, you don't even know who shot him. Like, you don't know at the end of the day. Like, honestly, I was literally just talking to someone about this the other day. We will not know facts. Yeah, they can put all this stuff out in the media and tell us, like, this is who shot him. This is how he was shot. We're never going to actually know because we're not, any of us are not in the position to know that kind of information because it is going to be so silenced. And things can be switched and, to your point, polarized so crazily by the media that like you're never going to know the full truth. So I do somewhat believe that people on the far right were using it and were saying, hey, look, blah, 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 this dude got shot. Now let's go hate the other side. When it's like, no, this dude just got shot. Let's all pray and mourn for his family.
I think sensitivity issues. I mean, like we always hear about people not being sensitive enough, or
Yeah.
you know, even like employing politically correct terms and like the way that you're talking about things.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like I kind of do agree. I mean, when I first heard Charlie, first of all, to be clear, my first thought when I heard Charlie Kirk got shot was, I hope he fully recovers, and
Mm-hmm.
this like would make him think further about like how he views guns. That was my first thought. Then my next thought was, oh my God, his family was there.
Yeah.
What?
And I think there was clarification. His family was not there.
Yeah,
Oh, they
that,
weren't?
that is
did
hear
facts. Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, the last thing I had seen was that his little girl was there,
And that was
so
the
was
whole
his wife.
Yeah, so apparently they were confirmed to not be there.
Mhm.
That
Okay.
was what I saw from like the New York Times, I believe.
That's what I heard too,
So-
but I wasn't
Okay.
sure, so I wasn't gonna
Yeah,
bring it up.
which honestly, thank goodness. 'cause
No, yeah, that
that's
actually makes
horrific.
me feel
Yeah.
better because that was the biggest thing for me was like I could not imagine
Mm-mm.
being a wife
Yeah,
and like sitting there and seeing that. Like,
yeah, that would be
Yeah.
insane.
No.
But and I think even as a comedian, a comedian, you know, like if you're gonna report on something, even if you're doing it in a satirical or kind of humorous way, like make sure it is based on fact, and it is
Mhm.
fact. Like the first couple of things that I saw was like, oh, this has to be an immigrant, or like
Mhm.
this must be a trans person. Like even the Utah like governor, he was like, I was praying it wasn't gonna be one of us, you know. So it's like when you say things like that, and then he makes this comment based off like, I mean, it's like if you take like a bunch of information and put it into a really poorly worded sentence and
Yeah.
you say it out. I think his biggest fault was not, you know, being, I guess, politically correct enough or being sensitive enough to the issue, because then again, like the fact of the matter is that a man died.
Mhm.
The fact that this was like, yes, he, you know, talked a lot about politics and stuff like that. So it makes sense that like within the field that, you know, he worked in, that people within that field are, you know, talking about him. but it should not have been used by anyone as like a political campaign move or anything. A man
Yeah.
lost his life, a wife lost her husband, kids lost their father. And when we talk about the gun violence that is in America, it's the fact that these people are like, we're losing life. We're losing lives that God has put here. And that's the concern. Not, oh, it was this person or and these are the reasons why and this is why we should now rally behind a cause. Like using someone's death to try to rally people behind your political belief, I it just makes me a little uncomfortable.
The people comparing deaths and all of that, I think that no death is more important than the other. And I just wanted to clarify that. I think that's horrific to even say.
I
yeah.
think it's a critique of the media.
Uh-huh.
And people as well. Like, we're critiquing the fact that we as people are like so enamored by, you know, someone's murder. But we don't, I guess, or I don't know, like I pray every day and I
Mhm.
always give a prayer to like those who have like lost someone or like people who are, you know, struggling and stuff like that, of all the things, the wars that are going on in the world and stuff like that. And I think it's disturbing that a public execution garnered more like compassion in people's heart for people who have lost someone. And I think like that is, well, some people. That was some people's like take or stuff, but I do think it's like a deeper critique of the media of like these are the things that we want to talk about.
But then because Charlie Kirk was shot, that's going to get the news more ratings, which gets them paid,
Yeah.
which gets influencers paid for stitching all of that, which gets Instagram ads, gets all of these things paid. And it's so sad because at the end of the day, it all comes down to ratings.
Mm-hmm.
And again, goes to your point that it is a critique of the media and what the media actually wants to put forth.
Yeah.
Because I think if more people saw what actually happens with school shootings, what actually happens with people going into churches and shooting up churches, people going into any religious space, because it's not just Christian churches that happens, it happens in any religious space, any religion you want, because you always have extremists. If more people saw those things, I think that then there would be more of that compassion that we saw with Charlie Kirk.
Mhm.
But again, it's a critique of the media because that doesn't get ratings for them.
Yeah. And it's really sad. Like I just imagine like some news header being like, that happens like every day. Like we
Yeah.
need to report on the bigger story.
Yeah.
Which is really sad. But I think like if we did hear more about, you know, the after effects, because like
Mhm.
I'm from Florida and like I know people who like go to FSU.
Mhm.
And like I heard their personal stories, like how it affected them, how they're like their parents are like spending a lot of money for therapy and things like that. And I mean, these stories do matter, but it's not as flashy as the murder of someone who has a very large following.
And I think it's honestly one of the blessings or positives that could come out of the of him passing away. I think is people seeing now that like if you saw that video, you see how gruesome that would be to be shot and gunned down and killed. So
Right.
I think school shootings now take a deeper meaning for everyone, no matter what you lean to, because it's like you could imagine those poor kids having that same experience. So it's like if you hadn't seen that visual before and now you do, and everyone is on the same page of like realizing what that looks like when it was kind of hidden before, I think. So platforms like X, like which was formerly Twitter, what is your opinion on them censoring certain users? Obviously, the whole entire thing with Donald Trump and his account and all of that. So, what is your opinion on if that, like, if they should be able to censor certain people from using the app, especially large influencers or presidential people?
Well, here's my thoughts. And I don't know if this is like a liberal thought, so let me not speak for the liberal community, but I genuinely feel like if I'm a business owner, because that's what these things are, and I'm like, hey, I don't really like the things that this person is saying and like how it's having my other clients or customers like are interacting. Like it's like if you are a bus driver and you always have this like person who comes on the bus and like causes a bunch of disharmony and just like does too much. They're never wearing socks and their feet are stinky. It's like you would stop picking them up. And that's well within their right. The problem is people are going to pay a lot more attention to to what's going on X and Twitter than like if you were able to get your voice into like an actual newspaper. So I think it's the fact that these are the avenues in which that we have to like share our voice and stuff. Like these are the platforms. So unless you are, you know, playing nice and like abiding by whatever some billionaire who owns this company thinks is acceptable, then you're not going to have access to that platform anymore. But those are the rules that you have to play. You have to play by, and you accept that when you accept your terms and agreements. So, do I think it's fair? No, but I also don't think it's like unjust.
Yeah, I would agree. I think that to your point with the terms and agreements, I think there would have to be something set in stone. Like, you can talk about this, you can't talk about that for it to be just. If you don't like something, just don't look at it. Don't
But
read it.
I would say though, at the same time, because I was further thinking as you were speaking, it's like if I'm the president of a country and I tweet something, news is going to cover that, you
Mhm.
know? So it's like,
Yeah.
it's not something that I could just be like, oh, like, I don't really care to see this, because it's like,
Mhm.
or like literally anybody, if like a celebrity like goes and tweets something like, like, I hate to bring him up, really do. Cause like, but like Kanye West, like, you
Mhm.
know, if you tweet something and like this is going to cause disharmony on such a large platform because you have that platform, it's like,
Yeah.
you can't just look away from that. Like if you're
Yeah.
like saying anti-Semitic things, you know?
No, I
Yeah.
completely agree. I think that, like, to your point, it's not cookie cutter.
Mm-hmm.
And that's the hardest part about it, is like, this is such a complex, deep issue of like, one person could say it in a very polished, pretty way, and then
Mhm.
one person could say it in just like a unfiltered, here's my thoughts way.
Yeah.
This person isn't going to get canceled. This person is.
Yeah.
And it's just like, it's so hard to pick that in between, because there really isn't an in between.
Like I feel like Faith would say something and be like, yeah, I agree with that. And I would say something and Faith would be like, yeah, I agree with that.
Yeah.
I think the only difference here is the fact that I would identify more so as liberal and Faith would identify more so as conservative. But that's
Yeah.
all the difference I found.
Yeah, I completely agree. I mean, I've talked to you many times about political things, and I feel
Mhm.
like we've always had like a very open and honest opinion, being able to like talk about our
Mhm.
differing opinions over things. And I definitely enjoy that about you. And so I was very excited when I knew it was you coming on. But yeah, I think it's just point proven to anyone watching or anyone else you have coming on, which is why I love you doing this, is that you have more in common with people who have differing opinions than you think. Yeah.
Well, thank you so much. Can you guys shake hands now for the
Yes.
Yay!
Yes.
All right, thank you so much.